When Jesus rose from the dead, he kept his scars. Think about that for a second. The resurrection is the most powerful moment in history. Death undone, the grave emptied out. And when the risen Christ walks into that locked room on Easter night, the first thing he does is show his disciples his hands and his side. He could have come back without the wounds, a glorified body, unblemished, perfect. That would have been easier to believe. But that's not what he did. He came back carrying the evidence. A week later, when Thomas won't believe until he sees, Jesus doesn't scold him. He walks right up and says, "Put your finger here. Put your hand in my side." He invites Thomas into the wounds, and Thomas falls on his face and says, "My Lord and my God." That's in John chapter 20. This should strike us as strange, because everything else in the resurrection narrative points to newness. St. Paul tells the Corinthians the resurrected body is incorruptible, it's glorious, it's powerful, it's spiritual. A body remade from the ground up. So why the scars? Because the scars are the proof. The fathers of the church wrestled with this. St. Augustine taught that the wounds of Christ remain in his glorified body not as disfigurements, but as trophies. They're not signs of weakness anymore, they're signs of victory. The same hands that were nailed to the wood are the hands that now hold the keys of death and hell. And that changes everything about how we understand our own suffering. We tend to think grace works like a delete button. We mess up, we suffer, we grieve, and we assume that heaven is going to erase all of it, wipe the slate, start over. As if our wounds are an embarrassment God has to clean up before we're presentable. But that's not what Easter teaches. Easter teaches that our wounds get glorified, not deleted, glorified. The suffering we carry, the losses we've survived, the scars we've earned, none of it is wasted. It all gets taken up into the resurrection, transfigured, made radiant. St. Thomas Aquinas wrote about this in the Summa. He said the wounds of Christ remain in heaven for 3 reasons: to show his triumph, to plead our case before the Father, because the Father never stops seeing what his Son did for us, and to increase the joy of the saints, who look at those wounds and know what was paid for their salvation. Now apply that to your own life. That thing you carry that you wish you didn't, the illness, the grief, the betrayal, the years you feel like you wasted. You spend a lot of energy wishing those parts of your story weren't there. You'd give anything to edit them out. Easter says you don't have to. In the resurrection of the body, which is one of the things we profess every Sunday in the Creed, the story of your life is not erased. It is fulfilled. Every scar you carry now, if you carry it with Christ, becomes part of what makes you glorious. That's why the saints never hide their wounds. St. Francis had the stigmata and wept with gratitude. St. Padre Pio lived with bleeding hands for 50 years. St. Paul wrote that he bore the marks of Jesus on his body, and he did it not as something to complain about, but as something to boast in. The wounded Christ is the risen Christ, and the wounded Christian is the Christian on the path to sainthood. So when you hold up your own scars, physical, emotional, spiritual, don't apologize for them. Don't wish them away. Offer them. Because here's the promise of Easter, and it's not a metaphor, it's dogma. The body that rose from the grave on Easter morning still had holes in it. And the body you will receive at the resurrection of the dead will still be you. Every scar you carry, in union with the Lord, will be the thing that shines most brightly about you in heaven. We don't follow an unwounded God. We follow a crucified one who stands alive, holding out his hands, saying, "Look what I did, and what I did for you." That's Easter. That's the whole thing.
This is the Catholic Frequency.